The storm rolled
I
over
work
Shadow
alone.
Ridge Ranch like an omen, thunder crashing above the endless Montana prairie.
Easy,
By
boy!
dawn,
I'm not here
rain
to
battered
fight!
the red tin roofs, pooling in muddy ruts outside the stables. Helen Callahan stood at the window of her office, staring out at the wild black stallion bucking in the round pen. His mane whipped in the wind. Midnight looked less like a horse, more like some ancient spirit refusing to be tamed. Helen's fingers tightened on her coffee
Easy
mug.
now.
The phone
That's a good
rang
boy.
non-stop since sunrise. Every call, every message, a variation on the same complaint. Staff afraid, neighbors gossiping, even the feed supplier warning her, "Helen, that horse is a lawsuit waiting to happen." She set the mug down, took a steady breath. "I will not let them see me shaken." Her boots echoed down the hallway as she headed outside, rain pelting her broad-brimmed hat. She stopped beside the round pen, watching as Midnight kicked and spun, teeth bared, foam flecking his chest. Inside the fence, Raoul, her best hand, tried to calm the horse with soothing words. Midnight lunged, hooves striking the wood hard enough to splinter it. Helen called out, "Raoul, back off now!" Raoul scrambled away, eyes wide, face pale. Midnight reared up and let out a scream that sent shivers down Helen's spine. The other hands lingered nearby, whispering, eyes darting to the boss lady as if expecting her to admit defeat. A bitter wind sliced through the rain. Helen pulled her coat tighter. Behind her, a knot of staff, 3 men, 2 women, all ranchers for decades, confronted her, their faces tight with fear. "Helen, we can't do this," one pleaded. "That horse will kill somebody." Another added, "He's already put 5 trainers in the hospital. What are you thinking, Helen?" "We have families to feed," a woman said quietly. "This place has always been safe. Not anymore." Helen shook her head. "I understand the risk, but this is my decision. Midnight isn't going anywhere. If any of you want to leave, I'll write the checks myself today." There was silence. Rain thundered on the barn roof. Midnight pawed the mud, ears flat, sides heaving. He looked at Helen as if daring her to come closer. The moment stretched. Someone muttered, "Maybe it's time to put him down, Helen, for everyone's sake." Helen spun on her heel, her voice cold. "I didn't save this ranch just to turn it into a slaughterhouse. Midnight is not a monster. He's scared. He's hurt. He deserves a chance. I brought him here for a reason, and I won't quit on him." A flash of lightning revealed how worn she looked. Lines deepening around her eyes, silver streaks in her once red hair. Still, her posture was defiant. The staff shifted uneasily, but no one challenged her. Not now. She marched toward the pen, opened the gate, and stepped inside. The hands gasped. "Helen, don't!" She ignored them. Her boots sank into the muddy sand. Her heart pounding. Midnight snorted, tossed his head, and bolted to the far side. Helen stood her ground, arms at her sides, meeting his wild gaze. Rain soaked through her shirt, but she didn't flinch. For several tense minutes, it was just the two of them, woman and horse, each testing the other's will. Midnight feinted toward her, teeth bared. She didn't move. He lashed his tail, prancing in a wide arc, eyes burning. Helen whispered, "It's all right, boy. You're safe here." He shook, his chest heaving, but didn't charge. Helen took a step forward. Midnight stamped, flared his nostrils, but didn't retreat. Another step. He snorted, tossed his head again, then stood still, trembling. From the fence, Raoul's voice trembled. "You're going to get yourself killed." Helen kept her gaze on the stallion. "Midnight," she murmured, I know what it's like to be scared. But you don't have to fight me. Not today. The staff stared in disbelief as the wild horse's fury wavered, just for a heartbeat. Then, without warning, Midnight spun and bucked, missing Helen by inches. Mud flew, hooves slicing the air. Helen stumbled, caught herself, and stayed upright. The stallion galloped a furious circle around her, kicking up stones. Helen's pulse hammered. Her mind flashed back to every moment she'd fought for this ranch, every bank meeting, every sleepless night after her father died, every insult she'd swallowed from men who said a woman couldn't run a spread this size. I will not lose it all now. At last, Midnight slowed, sides shuddering. He stopped opposite her, sweat streaking his flanks. They stared at each other, two warriors at the end of a hard-fought battle. Helen took a shaky breath, forced her voice steady. You want to fight? So do I. But not with you, Midnight, with the world that says we don't belong. She left the pen, closing the gate quietly. The hands looked at her as if seeing a ghost. Raoul whispered, You're crazy, Helen. Maybe, she replied, but I'm not giving up. Not on him. Not on us. That night, thunder rattled the windows as Helen sat alone in her office. Papers scattered everywhere. Unpaid bills, threatening letters from the insurance company, a family photo cracked in its frame. She stared at the storm, knowing tomorrow the pressure would be worse. Midnight was her gamble, her last shot at saving Shadow Ridge. But at what cost? As the rain hammered down, Helen whispered to the darkness, There has to be another way. There must be someone who can help. Someone who understands wild hearts better than anyone. In the black silence, a dangerous hope flickered. She reached for her phone, hands trembling, and dialed a number she'd sworn never to call again. Tomorrow, everything would change. Helen stood in her dark kitchen, the storm now a memory, her nerves as raw as the morning chill that crept through the ranch house. The phone call had been short. No pleasantries, just facts. Jackie Morrison would come. Helen washed her face at the sink, staring at her reflection, searching for any trace of the proud young woman she once was. All that remained was grit and the echo of an old rivalry that would soon walk right back into her life. By mid-morning, a battered blue pickup rolled up the long, muddy drive. Heads turned, ranch hands froze, murmuring among themselves as the truck door creaked open. Jackie Morrison stepped out, hat low, gray hair braided down her back, denim jacket flapping in the wind. She moved slow, but there was nothing frail in her stride. Even now, whispers followed her like shadows. That's her, the horse witch. She ruined everything years ago. Helen met Jackie at the porch steps, their eyes locked, two storms colliding. Neither spoke for a long moment. At last, Helen managed, Thank you for coming. Jackie shrugged. You didn't leave me much of a choice, did you? Helen tried to smile. Jackie just tipped her hat, glancing around the ranch she once called home. Fences were sagging, staff tense, tension thick as summer dust. A memory passed through Jackie's face. Pain, nostalgia, maybe regret, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Helen cleared her throat. The staff is worried. Midnight's dangerous. Jackie looked her dead in the eye. So am I. They walked together toward the round pen, passing silent ranch hands who studied Jackie with open suspicion. Raoul scowled, shaking his head. In the feed room, a couple of younger hands exchanged snide jokes, voices loud enough for Jackie to hear. I heard she talks to the horses like they're people. Maybe she's crazier than Midnight. She should be in jail, not here. Jackie's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Helen bristled, but remembered what was at stake. Just let them talk. Results will do the talking for me. Outside the round pen, the staff gathered in a tight knot, arms crossed, faces hard. Midnight circled restlessly inside, dark coat gleaming with sweat, ears pinned back. Watching the newcomers with a predator's focus. Jackie dropped her duffel bag outside the fence, ignoring the crowd. She stepped to the rail, gaze steady. "I work alone," she said quietly. "If I'm going to help this horse, I need space. No one comes in, no one shouts, no one tries to help unless I ask. Understood?" A snicker rose from the crowd. Raoul called out, "He's going to eat her alive." Helen's heart pounded. She forced her voice steady. "You heard her. Give Jackie space." One by one, the staff drifted back, some shaking their heads, others looking secretly curious, a few hanging back to watch. Jackie turned, her voice soft, but the steel underneath unmistakable. "Lock the gate behind me," Helen hesitated but nodded. The latch clicked. Jackie stepped into the pen. Midnight reared, eyes wide, hooves slashing at the air. Jackie moved slow, hands empty, body language calm, voice low. She never looked the horse in the eye, instead circling with him, matching his energy, breathing deep and slow. The ranch fell silent, breath held as if one wrong move would shatter the scene. Even Raoul, perched on the fence, forgot to heckle. Midnight charged, muscles rippling. He barreled toward Jackie, sand flying. She stood her ground, heart racing, but her voice never wavered. "Easy, boy. I'm not here to fight. Not today." The stallion skidded to a halt, snorting, head thrown high. Jackie didn't flinch. She dropped to one knee in the mud, exposing her neck, a gesture that, to the staff, looked like surrender, but to a wild animal said, "I trust you." A gasp ran through the crowd. Someone whispered, "She's lost her mind." Jackie closed her eyes, whispering, "It's okay. You're safe. I see you." For a long, breathless moment, nothing happened. Midnight tossed his head, uncertain, pawing at the ground. His muscles bunched, tail lashing, but he didn't attack. Jackie stayed where she was, murmuring soft encouragements, letting the tension dissolve with each gentle word. Helen clung to the fence, knuckles white, torn between hope and terror. Every fiber of her wanted to leap in and pull Jackie away, but something about the old woman's stillness stopped her. For the first time in weeks, Midnight's rage began to break. His head dropped a little, breath slowing. Then, without warning, he charged again. Jackie sprang to her feet, not running, but sidestepping, her movements as fluid as the horse's own. Midnight spun, kicking up mud, but Jackie mirrored him. Never forcing, never retreating, until finally. The stallion paused. He took one step toward her. The crowd fell silent, as if the entire ranch dared not exhale. Jackie spoke, her voice a promise. "I don't hurt the broken ones. I heal them." Rain had started again. Just a soft drizzle, but it felt as though a curtain had lifted. For the first time, Midnight's eyes softened. Just a flicker, but enough for Jackie to step back, giving him space. The crowd broke into murmurs. Raoul cursed under his breath. Another ranch hand, a burly man named Greg, said, "Well, I'll be damned." Helen felt a tear burn behind her eyes. She wiped it away, unwilling to show weakness. Instead, she called out, "That's enough for today, Jackie." Jackie nodded, climbing out of the pen as quietly as she'd entered. The staff parted, some giving her wary respect, others just confusion. That night, talk buzzed through every bunkhouse and kitchen on the ranch. Maybe Midnight wasn't a monster after all. Maybe the old whisperer still had her magic. But the question hung over Shadow Ridge like a dark cloud. Could Jackie Morrison really tame the untameable? Or was it all just one more gamble for a ranch already on the edge? Helen watched the storm from her window, hope flickering in her chest. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The ranch was shrouded in that rare, soft silence only found in the first hour after dawn. Mist curled along the fences, soaking the dry grass and muting every sound except the low nickering of horses hungry for their breakfast. Inside the round pen, the world felt even smaller, drawn in tight, a circle of hope and tension. Jackie Morrison stood in the damp sand, motionless, eyes half closed, her body relaxed and open. Across from her, Midnight watched, every muscle taut, ears pricked and swiveling. The stallion had not slept. Neither had Jackie. Helen Callahan, hidden behind a curtain in the tack room, sipped black coffee, eyes fixed on the ring. Today, no staff gathered. There were only 3 souls awake. Jackie, Midnight, and Ella Callahan, Helen's teenage daughter, peeking through a gap in the fence, her heart beating so loud she wondered if the horse could hear it. Jackie breathed slow, matching Midnight's rhythm. She spoke in a low voice meant for him alone. "It's all right, boy. Take your time. I'm not here to catch you, just to listen." The horse flicked an ear but did not bolt. Jackie took a step sideways, barely more than a shift in weight. Midnight mirrored her, nostrils flaring, uncertain but curious. Hours passed like this. Step, pause, breath, whisper. At times, Midnight would snort and dance away, circling the pen's edge. Jackie always waited, hands at her sides, letting him decide when to come closer. She never rushed him, never raised her voice. Ella watched, spellbound. She'd heard the ranch hands mocking Jackie's hippie tricks, talking to a killer horse, trusting patience over force. But what she saw now looked like magic. At one point, Midnight stopped just a few feet from Jackie, trembling, sweat tracing dark lines through his coat. Jackie didn't reach out. She just crouched slowly, sitting cross-legged in the sand, eyes soft. "If you want to leave, I won't stop you. You get to choose." Helen paced inside, tension crawling up her spine. She wanted results. She needed results. The ranch was bleeding money. Her phone buzzed with angry messages from former clients. She couldn't afford another broken dream. Yet every time she considered pulling Jackie out, she remembered the look in her eyes, the quiet faith that couldn't be shaken. Mid-morning brought the staff out in small groups. Raoul leaned on the fence, skeptical but drawn in by the quiet drama unfolding. Greg and a few others traded bets in whispers. 5 days ago, they would have laughed. Now, they just stared. Suddenly, Midnight jerked forward. Jackie flinched but didn't move. The stallion lowered his head, sniffing her boot, his breath hot and fast. Jackie smiled, tiny and real, her voice barely more than a murmur. "That's it, boy. I'm right here." The staff held their breath. Then, just as quickly, Midnight spun away, kicking up sand. Jackie let him go, never chasing, never shouting. Raoul let out a curse. Greg muttered, "Waste of time." But Ella saw it the moment Midnight paused, uncertain but not angry. He was thinking, she realized. Not just reacting. Jackie was teaching him trust, one breath at a time. Helen stepped outside, raincoat thrown over her shoulders. She watched, arms folded. Jackie caught her gaze, nodded once. Helen wanted to shout, Hurry up! But she said nothing. She forced herself to wait, to hope. Lunch came and went. Jackie never left the pen. She ate an apple from her pocket, tossing the core in the sand, letting midnight watch her. She read aloud, soft poems, cowboy songs, fragments of old letters, her voice weaving into the stallion's restless energy. At first, he ignored her. By mid-afternoon, he'd begun to circle closer, ears relaxed, head low. Ella crept forward, curiosity burning. She stayed behind the fence, careful not to make a sound. At one point, Jackie motioned for her to join, mouthing, "Not yet. Let him come first." Inside, Helen's doubts churned. The board of directors would arrive in a week. If they found a mad horse and an old woman talking to herself, they'd shut her down for good. She nearly called it off. Then she saw something shift. Midnight, weary but calm, stood next to Jackie, shoulder to shoulder, as if they were two old friends watching the world go by. For the first time, Jackie lifted her hand, palm up, letting Midnight sniff. The horse tensed, then, slow as sunrise, let his nose brush her fingertips. The fence line held its breath. Jackie smiled, blinking away tears. "Thank you," she whispered, as much a prayer as anything. The staff murmured, unsure. Greg shook his head, but his voice had lost its edge. Raoul crossed himself. As dusk fell, Jackie walked from the pen, her boots dragging. She leaned on the rail, face drawn but shining. Helen rushed over, voice tight. "Is he safe yet?" Jackie shook her head. "Not yet. But he's listening. That's how it starts." Helen bit her lip, fighting the urge to cry. Ella slipped from her hiding spot, running to Jackie's side. She wanted to ask 100 questions, but all she said was, "Can I help tomorrow?" Jackie smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind Ella's ear. "Maybe, kid. Trust takes time. For horses and people." Night came, quiet and thick with hope. Helen sat by her father's old desk, staring at the faded photographs on the wall. She wondered if he'd ever doubted himself like this, if he'd ever felt the weight of so many lives pressing down on him. Outside, Midnight lay down in the pen for the first time, head resting in the sand. Jackie watched from the shadows, humming an old lullaby. At Shadow Ridge, the world was holding its breath, waiting to see if faith, slow, stubborn faith, could do what force never could. The sun broke over Shadow Ridge Ranch with a soft gold glow, scattering the last of the cold morning mist. For the first time in weeks, the air hummed with a cautious hope. A dew-covered silence lay over the pastures, broken only by the soft clink of harness buckles and the rhythmic brush of hooves in the dirt. In the round pen, Jackie Morrison stood waiting, a rope coiled loosely in one hand, a gentle smile on her lips. Midnight, his black coat glistening with early light, watched her, no longer wild-eyed but wary, thoughtful, as if he too sensed something had shifted. Helen Callahan arrived just as the first rays filtered through the oaks. She carried 2 mugs of coffee, steam curling from the rims. One she handed to Jackie. Their eyes met. They didn't speak, but something unspoken passed between them, respect, gratitude, maybe even forgiveness, starting to crack the hard shell of old resentments. Jackie nodded, glancing at the teenage girl behind Helen. Ella bounced nervously on the balls of her feet, hair tied back, eyes shining. She'd been up since dawn, begging to watch, promising to stay quiet. Helen squeezed her shoulder, murmuring, "Just watch and learn, honey." Inside the pen, Jackie knelt and waited, as she had every morning. Midnight circled, cautious but calm, his breath visible in the chilly air. Jackie sang softly under her breath, a tune older than any of them, a melody that seemed to settle the dust itself. She spoke, not for the audience at the rail, but for the horse alone. Easy now. You remember me, don't you? There's nothing to be afraid of, boy. Not anymore. Midnight's ears flicked forward. He approached, one step at a time. Stretching his neck to sniff Jackie's shoulder, Jackie smiled, heart pounding but steady. That's it. You're safe now. She stood, slow and steady, careful not to spook him. Midnight didn't shy away. Jackie lifted her hand, palm open. The stallion nuzzled her fingers. Then, so gently it almost didn't seem real, he let her run her hand down his face, over his cheek and jaw. A gasp rippled along the fence line. Helen felt her throat tighten. Raoul grunted, "Well, I'll be damned." Jackie looped a lead rope over Midnight's neck, letting him feel its weight. No panic, no anger, only a wary curiosity. Ella's eyes widened as Jackie stroked the horse's neck, murmuring nonsense words, voice as soft as velvet. Today's the day, she thought, barely daring to hope. Jackie stepped beside Midnight, pressing her shoulder against his, moving with him as he walked a slow circle. They moved together, two creatures learning to trust the same ground. With every pass, Jackie grew bolder, running her hand along his flank, tracing the ridge of his back. She slipped a blanket across his withers, pausing when Midnight tensed, then waiting until he relaxed. She fastened a light saddle, her motions careful, never forcing. Helen wiped her eyes, not caring who saw. Years of stubborn hope, years of pride and heartbreak, and now, in a golden morning, something in her finally eased. Jackie climbed into the saddle in one slow motion, hands loose on the reins. Midnight shifted, startled, then stood, waiting. Jackie murmured, "I'm right here, boy. I'm not going anywhere." With a gentle nudge, she asked him forward. Midnight walked, then trotted, carrying Jackie as if he'd done it all his life. The staff gaped, open-mouthed. Helen felt a laugh bubble up, a sound she hadn't made in months. Jackie slowed Midnight to a stop, then looked straight at Ella. "You ready to try, kid?" Ella's heart skipped. She looked to her mother. Helen nodded, eyes shining with fear and pride. Ella slipped through the gate, her legs trembling. Jackie slid down, holding Midnight steady. Ella reached out, hand shaking, but the horse didn't move. Jackie boosted her up, whispering, "He's yours now." Ella sat astride the stallion, hands gripping the saddle horn. For a moment, the world stood still. Midnight turned his head, studying her. Ella exhaled, slow and even, just like Jackie had taught her. Midnight took a step, then another. Ella giggled, unable to stop herself. Jackie stood by, watching, her chest tight with relief. "That's it, Ella. Trust him, he'll trust you." From the fence, the ranch hands began to cheer, their skepticism dissolving in awe. Raoul whooped, Greg slapped the fence, and even the old cook hobbled out, grinning ear to ear. Helen wiped her cheeks again, looking at Jackie. "I don't know how you did it." Jackie shrugged, eyes shining. Sometimes the wild ones just need to be heard. Afterward, the ranch gathered in the kitchen for cinnamon rolls and stories. The tension of the last few weeks melting into laughter. Helen found herself lingering at the window, watching Ella lead Midnight, now rechristened Shadow, around the paddock, both girl and horse radiant in the morning sun. Jackie joined her, mug in hand. "It's not just the horse, Helen. Sometimes a place has to remember what hope feels like." Helen nodded, For the first time in a long while, she believed the ranch might actually survive. As dusk settled, Jackie slipped out to the paddock, finding Shadow grazing quietly. She ran her fingers through his mane, whispering, "We're both getting second chances, huh?" Shadow nickered softly, and Jackie smiled, feeling the weight she'd carried for years grow a little lighter. In that gentle twilight, a new chapter began for everyone at Shadow Ridge. Hope, hard-earned, fragile, and fiercely protected, had returned. Night crept over Shadow Ridge, cloaking the ranch in a hush broken only by the distant rumble of cattle and the lonely call of a barn owl. Inside the Callahan home, the family dining room glowed with warm lamplight, a rare bubble of peace after days of chaos. Helen moved between the kitchen and the table, shoulders squared as she set out platters: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, baked beans, cornbread. She fussed over every detail, using action as armor. Tonight, everyone was gathered, Helen and Eli at the ends of the table. Their children, Tommy, the gruff ranch manager in his 30s, and Ella, quiet and watchful beside her brother. Jackie Morrison sat opposite Helen, her presence drawing long, wary glances from Tommy and stony silence from Eli. The air prickled with old grievances and unspoken words. Conversation started safe. Weather, cattle prices, Shadow's progress, but tension coiled beneath every exchange. Tommy's fork scraped his plate. He shot Jackie a look, then Helen. "So how long is this arrangement supposed to last, Mom? We got plenty of real trainers, you know." Helen bristled. "Jackie's methods are working. That horse could have killed someone. She's earned her place here." Tommy scoffed. "Yeah, well, the staff's still jumpy. Some folks remember what happened last time she was around." A cold silence fell. Jackie didn't flinch, her eyes fixed on her plate. Eli cleared his throat, voice rough. "Can't we just eat without another argument?" But Tommy wouldn't let it go. "You know, I never understood it. You said she was trouble, Mom. Suddenly now she's our savior?" Helen's cheeks flushed. She set down her glass with a sharp click. "People change, Tommy. And sometimes we get things wrong." Jackie looked up, her face unreadable. She met Tommy's gaze, her voice steady. "Maybe one day you'll understand that holding on to anger only poisons you." Tommy's eyes flashed. "Don't preach to me. You disappeared when things got hard. And now you waltz back like nothing happened." Jackie's jaw tightened. "You think I wanted to leave? That I had a choice?" Helen slammed her fist on the table. "Enough!" Eli held up a trembling hand, his face paler than usual. The entire room froze. Eli's voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. "Before anyone says another word, I need to tell the truth, no more secrets." Helen stared at him, fear blooming in her chest. "Eli, not now." He shook his head. "No, Helen. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. I owe it to all of you, and to her." Tommy frowned, confused, but Jackie's face went still. The old rancher looked each of them in the eye, breath ragged. "I'm dying," Eli said, his words cutting the air. "Doctor says I've got 6 months if I'm lucky. I can't keep family secrets anymore. Not when the truth could set us free." Helen's hands flew to her mouth, eyes shining with shock and dread. Ella's face crumpled, tears welling up. Tommy stared at his father, anger draining away, replaced by fear. "No, Dad, don't say that." Eli pressed on, voice shaking. "Years ago, when Jackie left this ranch, everyone thought she'd done something unforgivable. I let folks believe it. I let you believe it, Helen. But it was a lie. Jackie's eyes glistened. Eli's gaze softened as he turned to Tommy. Son, you always wondered why you felt so different, why your mother and I butted heads over you. It's time you knew the truth. Jackie is your mother. You're her son, born of a love that never had a chance to live in the open. The silence was absolute. Tommy's face went slack, all color draining away. Jackie stared at Eli, tears sliding down her cheeks. Helen dropped into her chair, hands shaking. Eli kept going, voice hollow. Helen raised you like her own, loved you fiercely, but she kept this secret because I asked her to. We all made mistakes. Mine was the biggest. Tommy shook his head, voice cracking. You're lying. This can't be true. You all lied to me. Jackie tried to reach for him, but Tommy recoiled, knocking over his chair. Don't touch me. You think you can come back, fix everything with a bedtime story? Ella burst into tears, rushing to Helen's side. Helen hugged her close, her own tears streaming. Jackie whispered, Tommy, please, I never stopped loving you. Not a day went by. But Tommy turned on her, his grief boiling over into rage. Where were you when I needed a mother? Where were you when they called me a bastard behind my back? You left me with questions my whole life, and now I find out it was all a lie. He stormed from the room, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. For a long moment, no one moved. Eli buried his face in his hands. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Helen rocked Ella, her eyes vacant. Jackie stood rooted to the floor, every breath a battle, every regret sharper than the last. The family, bound together by years of hardship, was shattered in a single night. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows, as if the ranch itself mourned the weight of so many secrets. Shadow whinnied softly from his paddock, sensing the pain in the house. Inside, the Callahans sat together in the flickering light, each alone with their grief. The truth, long buried, had finally come to the surface, leaving nothing but heartbreak in its wake. Yet even as anger and pain threatened to pull them apart, the possibility of healing, painful, slow but real, hung in the air, like dawn waiting just beyond the night. The fallout from the dinner shattered any illusion of peace. Tommy's footsteps echoed through the house, doors slamming, voices raised, each room thick with the ache of betrayal. Helen tried to comfort Ella, but the girl only wept harder, refusing her mother's touch. Eli sat at the kitchen table, shoulders hunched, staring into a cup of cold coffee. Jackie paced outside in the yard, the night wind biting through her denim jacket, tears blurring her vision. She kept glancing toward the barn, where Tommy's shadow flickered back and forth. He moved with the fury of a man betrayed by everyone he loved. Jackie finally approached him, her voice quiet. Tommy, please, let me explain. He turned on her. Explain? You had a lifetime to tell me. All those years you just, what? Watched me grow up from across the fence. Jackie winced. I was told it was best for you. I was told you'd be better off. You let them lie to me. Jackie shook her head, fighting to keep her composure. Your mother, Helen, she loved you. She gave up everything for you. So did I. We made choices we thought would protect you. Maybe they were wrong. I'm sorry. Tommy's voice cracked. Sorry doesn't fix this. I spent my whole life wondering what was wrong with me. Now I know, huh? My whole life's a damn secret. I don't even know who I am anymore. He stormed away, vanishing into the night. Jackie stared after him, her heart pounding, the ache of regret almost more than she could bear. Inside, Helen found Eli asleep at the table, head buried in his arms. She draped a blanket over his shoulders, then wandered through the dark house, touching each photograph, each memento of a life built on love and sacrifice, and now on wounds torn open by the truth. A sudden pounding on the door broke the silence. Raoul burst in, breathless. "Helen! The barn's on fire!" Helen's blood ran cold. She flew into action. "Ella, stay here," then grabbed her boots and raced outside. Jackie saw the flames first, orange against the night, licking up the side of the old barn. Horses screamed in panic, their terror echoing over the fields. Tommy ran from the shadows, eyes wide with shock. "What the hell?" Helen's voice was sharp. "We need to get them out. Now." Jackie and Tommy didn't hesitate. They sprinted into the choking smoke, dodging falling timbers. Jackie found Shadow first, kicking wildly in his stall. "Easy, boy. Easy." She unlatched the door, sliding in beside him, speaking in soft, urgent tones. Tommy hauled open the gates to the pasture, coughing, eyes stinging. Helen rushed in after them, throwing open every stall, shouting at the horses to move. Raoul and Greg arrived, dragging hoses, fighting back the flames as best they could. But the fire was spreading fast. Someone, maybe Greg, maybe one of the new hands, screamed, "The doors are blocked! The side entrance!" Jackie grabbed Tommy's arm. "Help me with Shadow. He won't leave without someone he trusts." Tommy hesitated, staring at her. For a split second, years of anger and longing battled across his face. Then he nodded. "Let's do it." Together, they coaxed Shadow from the stall, Jackie whispering encouragement, Tommy steady at his side. Flames burst from the rafters. The heat was searing, the air thick with smoke. Tommy shielded his eyes, guiding the horse through the chaos. Jackie stumbled, nearly falling, but Tommy caught her arm, pulling her forward. The bond was raw, desperate, but real, each fighting for the life of a horse who meant more than either could say. Helen herded the last mares out into the night. Greg ran in with a blanket, helping Ella, who had defied her mother's orders and was now leading a terrified foal by the halter, escape the flames. Finally, Jackie, Tommy, and Shadow reached the pasture gate. Jackie collapsed to her knees, coughing, tears streaming down her cheeks. Tommy leaned against the fence, chest heaving, his shirt singed, face smeared with ash. For a moment, all was silent, but the roar of the fire and the frantic breathing of horses. The barn roof collapsed with a thunderous crash, sparks shooting skyward, lighting the night as bright as day. Jackie reached out, grabbing Tommy's hand. "Thank you," she rasped, her voice breaking. "You saved him. You saved me." Tommy looked away, torn, but didn't let go. You didn't have to go in there. You could have left us all behind." Jackie shook her head. "There's nothing in this world I want more than to make things right with you. I'm here, Tommy. I'm not running again." Ella rushed to Jackie, throwing her arms around her. Jackie hugged her tightly, drawing comfort from the girl's innocence. Helen came up behind them, voice raw. "Thank you, all of you. We almost lost everything tonight." Tommy finally looked at Jackie, his expression softer, pain still raw but something else beneath it. Relief, maybe, or the start of forgiveness. "We're not done talking," he muttered. "Not by a long shot." Jackie managed a shaky smile. "I'll be here." Sirens wailed in the distance, the local volunteer fire crew barreling up the road. But by the time they arrived, the barn was a blackened shell. The horses, thanks to courage and quick thinking, were safe. The family, though battered and broken, had come together in the blaze. As dawn bled over the horizon, painting the scorched earth in pale pink and gold, Helen took stock of what remained. Shadow Ridge had lost a barn, but gained something far more precious. A glimpse of forgiveness. A spark of unity that might, just might, heal wounds that ran deeper than the ashes underfoot. The fire had stolen the past, but the future was suddenly open. A blank field, waiting for the first seeds of hope. The first morning after the fire dawned gray and heavy. The smell of wet ashes lingering over Shadow Ridge like a memory that refused to fade. Where the old barn once stood, there was only a smoldering skeleton of beams, charred and twisted. The land seemed to mourn, but the air was alive with the steady thud of boots, the scrape of shovels, the clink of tools as the ranchers gathered to face what was left. Helen was the first up, moving stiffly but with purpose. She organized the staff, her voice hoarse but strong. We start with what we have, not what we lost. She assigned jobs, thanked each person by name, refused to let anyone wallow in despair. Every time someone glanced at the blackened ruins, she'd remind them, "The Callahans never give up. Neither should you." Tommy was already at the fence line, sleeves rolled up, hands raw from dragging out half-burned boards. His movements were relentless, as if physical labor might scour out the pain from the night before. Jackie approached, hesitation in her step. She stood beside him, silent for a long moment, then picked up a hammer and began pulling nails from a salvaged plank. Tommy grunted. "Didn't think you'd stick around after all that." Jackie didn't look up. "I told you I'm not running, Tommy. Not anymore." The silence stretched, but it wasn't hostile. Tommy paused, resting his arms on the fence. His voice was low. "It's just, I don't know how to feel. I grew up thinking I knew who I was. Turns out nobody told me the truth." Jackie nodded, her voice thick. "You deserved better. You deserved honesty. I failed you. Your dad failed you, Helen." She tried to do right by everyone, and it tore her up. Tommy wiped sweat from his brow, staring at the sky. All those years, I felt like something was missing. I guess now I know what it was. They worked in tandem for a while, the rhythm of rebuilding filling the space between words. Jackie spoke quietly. "I can't change what happened. I wish I could. But I can be here now, if you'll let me." Tommy didn't answer right away, but he didn't walk away either. In the kitchen, Helen and Eli sat at the small table. Eli looked older, his illness etched deeper by the trauma of the fire. Helen poured him coffee, her hands trembling. "I can't fix everything," Eli murmured. "I know I messed up." Helen squeezed his hand, her own eyes red. "We all did. But you tried to protect us. I know that. Maybe it's time we all stop hiding from the past." A gentle knock interrupted them. Jackie stood in the doorway, face streaked with soot, eyes tired but determined. "Helen, Eli, we need to talk. All of us." Helen called Tommy and Ella. They gathered in the kitchen, a family, damaged, uncertain, but together for the first time in years. Jackie cleared her throat. "I hurt you, Tommy. I hurt all of you. I let fear keep me away from my own son. I let the past control me." "I'm sorry." Tommy looked at her, searching for something in her face. "Why'd you come back, after all this time?" Jackie's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was strong. "Because you deserved to know the truth, and because I still love you. I always will." Helen spoke softly. "There's not a day I didn't wish things could have been different. But I would do it all again if it meant keeping this family together." Ella slipped her hand into Jackie's. "I'm glad you're here." Maybe we can be a real family now? No more secrets. Eli, voice shaking, whispered, "Forgive an old man for being a coward. I just wanted to keep you all safe." A heavy silence fell, but it was different this time. Not sharp, but full of possibilities. Tommy's voice broke. "Maybe we can't forget, but maybe we can start over. I want to try." Jackie let out a breath she'd been holding for years. "Thank you. That's all I ever wanted." They sat together, talking about memories, regrets, dreams for the ranch. The wounds were far from healed, but the first stitches had been sewn. Outside, the staff had gathered, some with breakfast in hand, others with blueprints or old stories of their own. Raoul spoke for them all. "You folks are stubborn, that's for sure. But we're with you. Shadow Ridge ain't just land, it's family too." Helen managed a weary smile. "Thank you, Raoul. We'll need every hand we can get." With a unity the ranch hadn't seen in years, the rebuilding began. Men and women hauled lumber, hammered nails, shared laughter and food. The community arrived, bringing hot coffee, fresh-baked bread, even a neighbor's old tractor to help clear debris. Children led horses to graze in new pastures, while Ella, under Jackie's gentle guidance, soothed the more nervous animals. Jackie and Tommy worked side by side, words not always necessary. At one point, Tommy looked at her. "Do you remember when you taught me to ride?" Jackie smiled, a tremor in her voice. "I never forgot." As dusk fell, the ranch glowed with lantern light and quiet joy. The barn was gone, but something stronger had risen in its place. A sense of belonging that reached from the oldest hand to the youngest foal. Helen looked around at her family, her staff, the friends gathered at the fence. The old wounds still ached, but the pain was lessened by hope. For the first time in a long while, she believed that forgiveness, hard-won, imperfect, was possible. And as night closed over Shadow Ridge, the ranch finally felt like home again. Summer at Shadow Ridge arrived with a hush of warm winds and golden mornings. The charred skeleton of the old barn had been cleared, leaving a raw patch of earth now lined with the fresh frames of new construction. Sunflowers sprouted where ashes had been, planted by Ella and Jackie together as a promise. Every ending is the start of something new. Shadow, the black stallion who once ruled the round pen with fear, grazed quietly near the porch. Children from the local community gathered at the fence, eyes wide, their laughter echoing through the air. Jackie stood by Shadow's side, her hand resting lightly on his mane, guiding Ella as she gently stroked the horse's neck. The girl's confidence had grown with each passing week, her voice steady, her seat firm in the saddle. She smiled at Jackie. "Ready? I think I can ride him on my own now." Jackie grinned. "You're more than ready, Ella. Remember, gentle hands, soft voice. And trust. Always trust." Helen watched from the porch, arms folded, pride and gratitude shining in her eyes. The ranch felt alive again, more alive than it had in years. Since the fire, Shadow Ridge had become something more than just a business. It was a symbol. Word had spread about the miracle at Shadow Ridge, about the wild horse and the broken family that healed together. People came from miles away, bringing their horses, their children, their hopes for second chances. The staff worked with a new spirit. Raoul, once the loudest skeptic, now led training sessions using Jackie's methods. He showed the young hands how to approach a frightened colt with patience, not force. See, it's all about respect, not fear. The horses responded, growing calmer, more willing, more connected. Tommy took charge of the new barn construction. With each nail he hammered, he rebuilt not just a building, but a piece of himself. He let Jackie help, trusting her advice on design. Extra light, more space, easy access for every animal. At night, he and Jackie would sit on the porch, sometimes in silence, sometimes sharing stories. The wounds between them had not vanished, but they were healing, bit by bit, replaced by trust and quiet affection. Helen and Jackie co-managed horse training. The old ways, whips, shouting, intimidation, were banished. Instead, the ranch became a place where patience was prized above all. Helen found she liked the change, liked the way even the most stubborn horses blossomed under a kind hand. She and Jackie worked together smoothly, their old rivalry replaced by an unspoken understanding that came from weathering storms together. The community noticed. Old clients returned, bringing new horses, asking for Jackie's guidance. Local parents signed their children up for summer camps at the ranch, eager for their kids to learn respect and responsibility from the woman who'd tamed Midnight. On weekends, families picnicked in the shade, watching as Jackie demonstrated her techniques. Soft words, gentle gestures, always letting the horse choose. The applause was warm, genuine, and for once, Jackie didn't shrink from it. She smiled, grateful, the weight of old scandals finally lifting from her shoulders. One afternoon, as the new barn doors were hung and painted a bright, welcoming red, Helen gathered everyone, family, staff, neighbors, clients, for a simple ceremony. Shadow stood at the front, his coat gleaming, a garland of sunflowers around his neck. Jackie spoke to the crowd, her voice steady. This ranch was almost lost, not just to fire, but to fear, pride, and old mistakes. But what saved us wasn't strength or luck. It was forgiveness. It was patience. It was choosing, again and again, to give each other a second chance. That's what we do here, for horses and for people. The crowd cheered, some wiping away tears. After the ceremony, Jackie found Ella sitting on the split-rail fence, notebook in hand. She looked up shyly. "Jackie, do you think I could really run the ranch someday?" Jackie sat beside her. "You can do anything you set your mind to, Ella. But remember, running a ranch isn't just about fences and horses. It's about kindness. It's about listening to the animals, to your family, to yourself." Ella nodded, her dream growing brighter with every word. Days passed quickly. Jackie became more than just a guest. She was family now. She taught Ella how to read a horse's eyes, how to treat every creature with dignity. She shared stories of her own mistakes, her regrets, her victories. Tommy sometimes listened from the doorway, a small smile flickering across his face. At dinner one night, Helen raised her glass to second chances and to everyone who never gave up on this ranch or each other. The staff cheered, the sound rolling through the open windows, blending with the evening song of crickets and the soft nickering of horses. Even Eli, though weaker, managed a toast, his eyes bright with pride and peace. That summer, Shadow Ridge became a beacon in the valley. Where there had once been whispers of scandal and ruin, now there was laughter, hope, and the steady work of healing. Horses that once shied from a touch now followed children across the pasture. Families came not just for training, but for the chance to be part of something bigger, a place where everyone, no matter how wild or wounded, was given another chance. As dusk fell on another perfect day, Jackie, Helen, Tommy, Ella, and Shadow stood together by the fence, watching the sun set over fields of wildflowers. It was not just a new season, but a new era, a testament to the power of forgiveness, the promise of second chances, and the unbreakable bonds that only love, honesty, and hope could forge. Summer's golden haze gave way to the first blush of fall at Shadow Ridge. The air crisp, the nights long and cool. The ranch bustled with life. But inside the old farmhouse, the mood had grown hushed and reverent. Eli Callahan's illness had progressed faster than anyone expected. He spent most of his days in the sunroom, looking out over the land he'd spent a lifetime tending, his family always within arm's reach. One evening, Helen gathered everyone, Jackie, Tommy, Ella, and the ranch staff, for dinner. Knowing time was slipping through their fingers. The table was set with Eli's favorite dishes: roasted chicken, sweet corn, apple pie. Conversation stayed gentle, every word soaked with meaning. Eli sat at the head of the table, pale but sharp-eyed. He looked at his family, then at Jackie. "Thank you all for staying, for not giving up on each other or on this place." Jackie smiled, her hand resting on Ella's shoulder. "We didn't come this far to turn back now." After dinner, they moved to the sunroom, pulling up chairs around Eli's bed. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, the faint sound of horses drifting in. Eli motioned for Helen to sit beside him, his voice a thread. "It's time we talk about what really matters before I go." The family leaned in. Even the youngest ranch hands paused their chores, listening from the hallway. Eli began. This ranch was never just about cattle or money. It was about making a place where people could start over, where wild hearts, human and horse, could find peace. He reached for Tommy's hand, his grip surprisingly strong. "Son, you spent your whole life looking for your place here. I tried to control too much, to shape you in my image. That was my mistake. Forgive me for all the ways I failed you." Tommy's eyes filled with tears, his voice thick. "Dad, you were always my hero. I just wanted to belong." Eli smiled, sadness and pride mingling. "You belong, Tommy. This place is yours as much as anyone's. But don't let pride or secrets tear you apart. They almost cost us everything." He turned to Jackie, his old friend and former love. "You gave us back hope when we'd almost lost it. Forgive an old fool for not standing by you when you needed it most." Jackie squeezed his hand. "I forgave you a long time ago, Eli. What matters now is family, and family means honesty, even when it hurts." Helen wiped away a tear, her heart swelling with gratitude and regret. "If I could go back, I'd tell the truth sooner. I was scared of what we'd lose, scared of being wrong, but nothing is worse than living with a lie." Eli looked at Ella, his voice gentle. "You have your mother's spirit and your father's stubbornness. Don't let the world tell you who you are. You decide that." Ella nodded, blinking back tears. She glanced at Jackie. "Can I take over the ranch one day? Do you think I'm ready?" Jackie grinned, her voice warm. "Not yet. But you're learning. It takes time to earn trust, from horses, from people. But you're braver than you think, Ella." Eli laughed softly. "She'll be ready sooner than we know." Jackie leaned forward, addressing the young staff gathered in the doorway. "Listen to me, all of you. Life will knock you down, and sometimes the people you love will let you down too. But true strength means facing mistakes, forgiving deeply, and never quitting on each other. Not when things get ugly, not when it's hard." Tommy nodded, echoing the sentiment. "We rebuild, we forgive, we keep moving forward. That's how you survive, how you honor the past without letting it trap you." Helen smiled, finally feeling the burden of guilt begin to ease. "You know, I spent so many years fighting to keep this ranch afloat. But I forgot that the real legacy isn't land or cattle. It's the love we leave behind. The staff, once suspicious and divided, had become part of this family. Raoul spoke up, voice rough with emotion. Shadow Ridge changed me. We all carry scars, but if this place can heal, maybe we all can. The community, once full of rumors and doubt, had changed too. People brought their horses, their children, their questions about gentleness and patience. Local papers called Shadow Ridge a place of second chances, and every weekend, families came to see Shadow, once feared, now gentle, calm enough to carry children around the arena. Ella took special pride in leading these rides, her laughter ringing out as the black stallion moved with easy grace. One Sunday, the ranch hosted a harvest festival. Children painted Shadow's flanks with wildflowers, neighbors brought pies and stories, and Jackie gave a demonstration in the round pen. Her words carried on the breeze. You can't force trust. You have to earn it, one day at a time. Helen watched as old enemies shared bread, as Tommy and Jackie laughed together, as Eli, frail but content, took it all in. For the first time, Shadow Ridge felt not just like a business, but a beacon, a place where pain could be transformed, where people could start over. That night, as Eli's breathing slowed, the family gathered at his bedside. He held Helen's hand, then Jackie's, then Tommy's, and finally Ella's. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm proud of you, all of you. Don't forget, the wildest hearts often make the best stories. He drifted off to sleep, a soft smile on his face, the ranch silent in respect and love. Jackie stayed with Ella by the window, watching the stars wheel above the dark prairie. She whispered, "The most important lesson, Ella, is this. Never be afraid to forgive. Never be afraid to try again, and never give up on the ones you love." The moon shone down on the pastures, where Shadow grazed peacefully, a living symbol of everything the family had learned. At Shadow Ridge, hope was no longer just a word. It was a way of life. The autumn sun rose gently over Shadow Ridge, casting a golden sheen across the dew-soaked grass and new red barn. A hush settled over the land, a peace born from struggle, from heartbreak, from the courage to face hard truths and start again. The funeral had been small, but full of love. Eli Callahan's ashes were buried beneath the wide cottonwood by the old fence line, just as he'd asked. Family, friends, and the ranch staff gathered in a circle, heads bowed, their hands joined in silent remembrance. The days that followed carried a bittersweet clarity. There was sorrow, but it was the kind that sharpens gratitude. Helen found herself wandering the pastures, the cool breeze on her face, memories flickering like shadows. Eli's laughter at sunset, his stubborn arguments, his steady hand guiding her through every storm. She felt his presence everywhere, not as a weight, but as a comfort. Jackie stayed on, her role now vital, her place at Shadow Ridge unquestioned. She and Helen moved in step, guiding the ranch forward. There were still arguments, over feed, over training, over who should take the night shift, but the old sharpness was gone. In its place was respect, humor, and the unspoken promise to never let secrets poison the land again. Tommy walked the fence lines each morning, his steps lighter than before, his heart finally at home. Sometimes he found himself by the cottonwood, talking quietly to the ground where his father rested, asking for advice, sharing the triumphs and doubts of his days. His anger, once a constant drumbeat, had faded to a distant echo, replaced by purpose, pride, and a growing affection for Jackie, who was both mentor and mother now. Ella blossomed in the new season. She studied every move Jackie made, every gentle word to a frightened colt, every decision Helen weighed in the office. The staff noticed. She had her mother's grit, her father's steadiness, but a new softness too. A gift from the lessons of a summer spent learning that gentleness was not weakness. Shadow, once wild and untouchable, had become the soul of the ranch. Children rode him around the paddock, laughing, their parents watching in awe. At community fairs, he carried the local mare, a pair of twins, and even a veteran with trembling hands, each time calm, powerful, a living emblem of second chances. People who remembered the chaos whispered, "It's a miracle what love and patience can do." The new barn opened with a celebration. Lanterns swung from the rafters, music played, and every guest, from ranchers to townsfolk to drifters with stories of their own, felt welcome. Helen gave a short speech, her voice carrying over the gathered crowd. "We rebuilt with hope, with forgiveness, with the help of everyone here. This ranch is for all who believe in starting over." But it was Jackie's words, spoken as the sun dipped low, that lingered in every heart. "Legacy isn't about bloodlines, about money or fences," Jackie began, her eyes sweeping over family and friends. "It's about courage, the courage to admit you were wrong, to forgive, to keep going when every voice tells you to quit. It's about choosing love, even when it's hard. Sometimes the wildest hearts, in horses or in people, just need time, patience, and a second chance." She paused, her gaze meeting Ella's, then Tommy's, then Helen's. "Let Shadow remind us, no soul is too wild to heal, no past is too dark for forgiveness. And no family is perfect, but together we can turn even chaos into peace." The crowd applauded, and Helen felt tears on her cheeks. This time not of regret, but of gratitude for all they'd survived and all they'd become. The seasons turned. Frost sparkled on the pastures, then melted into the mud of spring. The ranch's reputation grew. More horses, more families, more stories of healing and hope. Jackie and Helen taught clinics on humane training. Tommy managed the land with a steady hand, mentoring new hires with the wisdom of someone who'd lost everything and learned how to rebuild. Ella, now nearly grown, began taking over morning chores, leading lessons for the younger kids, writing in a battered notebook, plans for the ranch, dreams for the future, quotes she'd copied from Jackie's speeches and Eli's old letters. She wore her father's hat, her mother's boots, and carried herself with a grace that belonged only to her. One evening, as the sun set in streaks of orange and rose, the family gathered outside the new barn. Jackie stood at the fence, Shadow grazing nearby, Helen beside her, Tommy and Ella leaning against the rails. Laughter rippled among them, light and easy. Ella turned, her voice strong. "What do you think comes next, Jackie?" Jackie smiled, her eyes on the horizon. "Whatever you want, kid. This ranch belongs to all of us now. Keep leading with kindness, with truth, and when things get hard, remember, sometimes you have to let go of the past to claim your future." Helen nodded. "And never, ever give up on family." Tommy grinned. Or on wild horses, they stood together, shadows stretching long in the fading light. A living testament to the power of forgiveness, the strength in vulnerability, the joy found in healing what was once broken. And as darkness fell, Shadow Ridge glowed with lanterns and laughter. Out in the field, Shadow raised his head, ears pricked, mane rippling in the evening breeze. He stood as a symbol, not of wildness tamed, but of chaos transformed, proof that healing, honesty, and love could turn even the deepest scars into lasting peace. If you listen closely, you might hear Jackie's voice, soft but certain, carried on the wind. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you build each day with courage and hope. So like the Callahans, like Shadow himself, remember, no matter how wild the storm, there's always a way home.